everybody. This is Petra Popp for In-Spire-Life, New Ideas for a New World. It is right now 1 o'clock in the morning, and I have this enormous privilege and pleasure to talk to Neal Gorenflo in San Francisco via Skype. Thank you. Hello, Neal.
Hi, Petra. Hi, everyone.
Hi. I'm so excited to have you on this interview. Thank you for being there. And I would like to talk to you as you are the co-founder of Shareable. I would love to get some information from you and some inspiration about the sharing economy, the sharing and collaborative spirit that's showing up now and in many sectors of our life. And now Shareable is an award-winning nonprofit news, action, and connection hub for the sharing transformation in our society. I love
Yeah.
everything that's around hubs, so yes, right? And this society transformation is really big and global. And I think here in Europe, I'm very appreciative to be together now on this interview with the father of this sharing company, as you have defended it already for a long time, to be able to inform a little bit more. And this movement is what I love about it. The more I get to know it, is that it is human conscious, more
hmm
human conscious. It's more collaborative. Please correct me if it's transparent, creative, sustainable, social, more civic, direct, and most of all, more empowering and fun for the people that participate in it. Did I get this right?
Yeah, I think that's really good, and I also want to emphasize that as this is so new, that it's a in many ways what you're saying is true. In many ways, it's also a potential that we need to shape and realize together and create together. There's not a guarantee that the transformations that we're seeing will result in something different than what we've had in the past. So we have to wake up to the opportunity and shape it for the benefit of people and planet.
Yes. So for people here in Europe that don't have a notion about what this represents, would you like to give some examples of this sharing movement or economy? Because it doesn't only englobe economy, it's also something much more global in many sectors of life. But could you give some examples?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, at the high level, a good way to think about it is that we're undergoing a kind of shift from a society, especially in modern countries, modern economies, focused. The old it was focused on consumption and competition,
Right.
um, and what's emerging is a new way of being in the world focused on sharing and collaboration. And and we are and we are in a shift from a kind of factory model of society, a kind of top-down, bureaucratic, um, hierarchical
Right.
model of managing society to a more horizontal, peer-to-peer, networked form of organizing. And this is a shift that's been underway for, I think, a long time, at least several decades. But the difference now is it's kind of hit critical mass and reached Main Street. And part of that has to do with the proliferation of network technologies, particularly smartphones and the internet, and and then also just more generally, the cost of a wide range of production technologies have fallen, almost to the floor to make them accessible to ordinary people like you and I, and even more accessible, if not free, with shared access models of those production technologies. So there is, on the one hand, a democratization of the economy
Mm-hmm.
that's happening, that's emerging, right? On the other hand, as we kind of talked a little bit about before we started the interview, is it's both things. It's um, one system that's really grasping for every last resource to continue, and is centralizing power and wealth through the old channels. And at the same time, another system is emerging, which has the potential to radically redistribute or decentralize resources, knowledge, um, money, political power, and also physical assets. And so some of the things that we see out there that are like that give us hope, that we write about, that we inspire people to get connected to, are things like co-working, shared office space, maker spaces, where people share knowledge, tools, and skills to democratize manufacturing and making. Open source software, which has been around for a while, but continues to proliferate and become a bigger and bigger part of our world. Also, similar to that, but even with a longer history, are cooperatives, which there are 800 million members of cooperatives around the world. They employ more people than the Fortune 500, and they're resurgent because they offer a better, they offer stronger businesses and a better deal for workers. In cooperatives, the workers are owners and also the decision makers in the enterprise. So they're resurgent. We also see things like cryptocurrencies and alternative and different forms of currency. So people are see that our money system is really at the core of the, I guess, disadvantage that citizens face in the economy. That it's the playing field is even tilted by the structure of money, and are looking to redesign even money. And those are just a few examples. Part of what was really interesting about getting Shareable off the ground was we were a group of people, a small group of people who came together who were interested in starting a sharing movement. And then when I did the research, and that's kind of my background is research, strategy, business development, and communications. When I did the research, I really dove in. I'm just a super kind of curious person. I really dove in, and I was like, back in 2009, I saw what was happening, and it was happening across almost every field of human endeavor, that there was some new thing that was emerging, that sharing or openness or transparency or collaboration was at the core. And pick the field, and there is this new form emerging that is highly disruptive. And so the question changed from, how do we start a sharing movement to, wow, something is really huge transformation is underway. We don't need to start a movement. We need to focus people's attention on it, put a spotlight on it, get people engaged in it, show the opportunity to shape it in something new and transformative for humans. And so that's what we set off to do.
I find it deeply inspiring, and it's really, to me, a counterbalance for the old structure. Now, could we say that, like, for YouTube, for example, or eBay are the very first beginners that are very well known now and are very much integrated in our system, in our functioning, and yet we don't really say it's part of the sharing economy. However, it is. So all these, if we realize that it has been existing already for a while through these things that have become so intertwined into our daily lives and so accepted. So maybe it's easier for people that haven't heard really about what we call now the sharing and collaborative economy, that this is what we are talking about in a way. It can foster creativity, the sharing of information, and empower people to get beyond. Now, I would like to ask you,
Yeah.
where's the economic factor? As I hear people say, yes, this is all very beautiful, and we talk about all these nice values, but what about the economic factor in this
Well,
principle?
I think part of the reason, um, and from my perspective, a really powerful driver of this is that simply these open models are more productive. That by harnessing people power, that you can create a stronger business or organization. And network technologies offer new opportunity to increase the amount of engagement and participation, right? So there is a kind of moral dimension and a new value system which is attractive, and for me, like a new way of being in the world and relating to other people, which I think is much more fun and rewarding, instead of competing on things like what we own and how much we earn, what zip code we live in, what part of town. More we approach each other with a kind of, I think, very positive outlook and question, which is, hey, how can we help each other? What can we build together? Instead of encounters in which we judge each other and we rank each other. We seek out each other's rank and the questioning, like what family do you belong to, or where do you sit in your organization? And one of the inspirations for me is, Goethe, the German philosopher, right? He said you diminish someone if you approach them as they are, and you lift people up when you approach them as if what they could be.
Exactly.
Right? Right? And I'm paraphrasing, but the sentiment's there, and that's a world that's I think substantially already here and growing, that people more and more approach each other this way.
I love
And
it. Yeah.
that's beautiful. I mean, it's a beautiful thing.
Now, Neal, you're traveling all over the world, right? And you're spreading this information, these seeds to people that haven't heard of it. You're sharing with them your expertise about it. You're also probably installing new systems there. Now, is there a specificity to each country about the sharing company? I know we met in Paris.
Yeah.
On the OuiShare Fest. Next time it's on, please. I would love to ask everybody to go. It was an amazing experience for me. We met there, and so
Likewise, loved it. It was great. We had so much fun.
Amazing, and this bubbly, creative energy that came out of everybody, and this connectivity, and so many new things came out: entrepreneurial, creativity, inspiration, and very much down to earth sense as well. It was really interesting. So, Neal, do you see different strategies of each country where they prefer to express their shareable or sharing economy in? You mentioned in France about transports, if I remember. You said
I think that's my experience, is that every place has a unique way of approaching it, different attitudes,
right.
different ways of doing it, different systems, and I think that is beautiful, and also a great opportunity to learn, that we can learn from one another in these different approaches. And that's part of the reason why we started the Sharing Cities Network, as a knowledge exchange and a mutual support network for sharing activists and project leaders that we can learn from one another.
So would you like
And
to
yeah,
share a little bit more about this Sharing City projects, what it is exactly, to explain to people that they get
yeah,
it?
sure. So as you said, Shareable is a nonprofit. Our mission is to empower everyone to share for a more joyous, equitable, and resilient world. And our two main programs are our online magazine, which is the most visited online magazine about sharing in the world. And then we have our community organizing program. And these, of course, work really well together. And our community organizing program is the Sharing Cities Network. And we started out in last fall. Our organizing director Mira Luna is leading that effort, and
Right.
this was her idea. And
Congratulations.
yeah, she's done a fantastic
Yeah.
job. And she kicked off the work in the fall with which she called a map jam. So hashtag map jam.
Okay.
And this is a good first step for a community to start organizing their sharing movement, their local sharing movement. And a map jam is simply get your group together and map the sharing services and resources in your community. And then 60 small groups from around the world. Some were large groups, but most of them were around 5 people getting together. 60 of these small groups got together to map their local communities, and it was a much bigger response than we anticipated. So we were really excited about it, and so we followed on that.
Right.
In the spring, we launched a campaign in February called hashtag Sharing Spring, and with the goal to have as many spring share fests as possible. And so 40 groups signed up to have share fests in their town, and they were everything from half-day events to 3-day extravaganza in Oakland, California, across the bay from where I live. They did a month-long event with 29 separate events, right? So
Amazing.
it was a big celebration. So there was 40 Share Fest, but there was over 100 distinct events in this, and it's still going. We're about halfway through it, and we have some great reports, field reports back from people doing the Share Fest, and the people showing up are super diverse group. All ages, classes, ethnicities. Coming together to raise awareness and build a local sharing movement.
I was really inspired when I was there. I must say, I didn't expect it. I didn't know actually what to expect or what was showing up. Somebody invited me, and I was completely blown away by this experience, by the inspiration that came to me, and also the knowledge about what exists now in the world that I was not aware about. All these
Right.
parallel little goat ways that are being craved now. Instead of taking the auto route, now take this little road there. And it was practically and shown, information was given. Hey, why don't you try it this way? And that was so interesting, and it gave me a lot of hope and an inspiration to continue. So this sharing network, city sharing network, this is one of your precious babies, right?
Yeah, so this is our big focal point, and it's part of we're bringing our content and our organizing more closely together, integrating it. We've been doing the publishing for a long time, and alongside of it, developing our organizing ideas and hosting convenings, and so the Sharing Cities Network has emerged later in our development, and now we want to bring it together into one thing. And the kind of bigger picture there is that we really want to tell a new story about cities, And the old story is that cities are just simply marketplaces. They're just places that where people buy and sell things, and that they're engines for the global economy. And you know, the story we want to that we're telling, we want to reframe the city that it isn't a marketplace or just a marketplace. It's a commons. It's a place where people come together to create their lives and create their self-provision and create community, right? It's a
Right.
place where people share and make their lives together. Uh, and
Exactly.
uh, and this old story is not our story. It's not um, you and I's story. This is the story of corporations. That's their story of what a city is. It's a place that should be high tech, and everything should be instrumented. And this is the Cisco Systems and the IBM and the BMW story of what a city should be. We need our own story.
Right.
And so we're making a start at that. And that's what the Sharing Cities Network and our content is doing
This is beautiful.
or works towards. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. Please, Neil, could you cite some more concrete examples of this collaborative economy, like uh, just to mention so that people here in France can connect also more directly to it. We mentioned car sharing, excuse me. So, and the
Yeah.
Vélo
So
Libre, for example.
in Paris, you've got VLib, you've got the bike sharing
Right.
uh, network, and that in 2007, you know, they kind of came up with the right formula, and the VLib really catalyzed the bike sharing boom, and
Right.
that's definitely part of it. So they, you know, in Paris, they worked out there was the combination of the right business model and technology and scale. And it proved to be this fantastic success, and people followed on that. And then you have Autolib,
Autoliv,
which
right.
is, I think, one of the best car sharing systems in the world. That you have these cars that are made to be shared. I believe they're electric,
Yes.
and you know, and that's just the way to go. I think that's also a great model for it.
You
And
see,
you've also had a kind of proliferation of you know, people have taken this, entrepreneurs have taken this to the next level. So you know, the Autolib is fleet-based car sharing. But then you also have Buzzcar in
right.
France, which is a peer-to-peer car sharing service where you're sharing your car with your neighbor, and there's scheduling and payment and insurance all wrapped into the service on the platform, and you can access it on your
Mm,
computer or
mm,
on your smartphone, right?
right.
And you know, that's also a similar thing is D-Jump, which is a ride-sharing platform in Paris, which is similar to the sort of, I think, some of the originators of this idea in the United States, Lyft and Sidecar in San Francisco. And this is where you can give rides to anyone within a city,
Right.
and it can be a kind of like almost a part-time job or something.
Right.
Uh, there also is carpooling and city-to-city ride sharing. So you've got BlaBlaCar, which
Right.
has millions of members and has generated millions of rides, and I think millions of rides a month. It's very big. And so there's BlaBlaCar and carpooling
Right.
in Europe, and BlaBlaCar is founded in Paris, and that's for, you know, you go on their system and they have rides leaving to any point to outside of Paris, leaving almost on the hour. There's so much volume there. So this is a way for you to get from, say, uh, Paris to Toulouse, and it'll be much less than the train, and it might even be faster.
And you connect.
And that's the idea, is
Yeah,
that there's the social connection. Is
right.
That's why they call it blah blah. That there's talking and human connection happening in the car. That's the expectation. So they're really building a very social culture with their drivers and their riders. And that makes it so. Sure, maybe it's less money, maybe it's faster, but then the social element makes it such more. You know Enriching human experience.
Human experience, exactly.
Yeah.
So there's also Airbnb, right? So it's the sharing of your home with somebody you don't know yet, and it's based on trust also.
Mm-hmm.
Trust that
Yeah,
you could also.
and
Yes, go
you
ahead.
can do it with for a fee, but you also do the same thing for free on a site like Couchsurfing,
Right.
right?
Exchange only, yes.
Mhm. Yeah, and the emphasis there is on creating great experiences for one another.
Right.
It's about the cultural exchange and the hospitality between people. Not And there's a big difference between I show up at your home, Petra, or I go to a hotel.
Exactly.
And say I go to a hotel. I mean, it's the experience is scripted, and they get training, and they are supposed to say certain words in a certain order,
Exactly.
and they have policies, and then when I show up at your house, well, it could be a little awkward at first because I never met you, right? But then we have to kind of improvise because we've decided to do this together, so we have to work it out. And my experience is, at first maybe it is a little awkward, but then it just becomes just so cool because you're both approaching this with the same spirit of openness and generosity and hospitality. And I've had these amazing experiences where, I've come and showed up at their door, and then they had a meal ready for me,
Right.
and
Yes.
and with a cold beer and a big bowl of vegetarian chili and a brownie for dessert, and plus conversation and learning about the local community. And then one time I went in to rent a car from a neighbor using Relay Rides, which is a service here that's similar to Buzzcar. And we had never met before, this young woman, and we just got to chatting. She was interested in hydroponics, or aquaponics rather.
Right.
And she had an aquaponics set up on her balcony,
Here we go.
and then she said, "Hey, you want to check it out?" I was like, "Yeah, that would be cool. Very interested in that kind of thing."
I must
And
say,
so we go up, in her house and through her bedroom to her balcony, and she shows me her setup. She's got fish and plants, and it's really cool. And then she gives me a couple fresh strawberries right off the vine, and you're just not going to get that at Enterprise Rent-A-Car.
Exactly. Well,
Right.
in my life I had the experience to see very beautiful hotels, and really now in my new life I experience a lot the bed and breakfast, and now this new way of sharing B&B and so on. And it's such a more deeper, more profound experience. It's so much richer, and as you said, when you come there and they expect you with a meal that is not expected by you, and they share things with you, and you have this contact that you can have or don't have if you don't want it at that moment. It's wonderful, and also for the person who gives it. So in as a whole, it is somehow something I have as service, and you have a need. So let's just share these two, put them together, and exchange. Is
Right.
that the basis of the whole thing, right?
Yeah, and with like with smartphones and network technologies, you can scale this activity up, and
Right.
it
Yeah.
makes assets more visible to one another, and then opens up the opportunity for sharing those resources.
Right.
And then to do it also in real, and if you have a mobile phone, it's also can be a real-time experience.
Exactly.
That has a very strong place-based component, right? So you have a need for something at this moment, at this
Exactly.
place, with these set of people,
Right.
right? So it opens up a really new dimension of experience that did not exist before.
So true. Let's mention also crowdfunding, because I just wanted to mention it for on the financial side, which is people sustain or help the creation of things they really want to see appear. I love it.
Yes, right. So this is like democratizing finance,
Right.
and and I think it really plays off the type of world that we that's emerging, a peer-to-peer world, like again where we approach each other with a question, hey, what can we create together? And then a Kickstarter or Indiegogo or a Kiss Kiss Bank Bank, that's you can take your idea to all your peers and say, hey, this is what I want to do with you. Do you want to do it with me? And people can all chip in and make it happen at a speed and scale that wasn't really possible before. So that's what really is really cool. And there are new things that are popping up all the time, different spins on crowdfunding. Like there's this new one called GitUp, GITTIP, where it's peer-to-peer patronage, basically. So there are people on there that are being supported in the thousands of dollars per month range, and it's just a bunch of individuals in their circle and beyond saying, I want to give you $10 a month to support the work you're doing, and there's no strings attached. It's like,
Right.
just go do your work. You don't have to give me a product. I don't want to check in.
No exchange.
It's like, just go do your good work. I trust what you do and that you're doing good things in the world. So, yeah, peer-to-peer patronage. And it's crazy because it's working,
I love that.
at least for now.
But yeah, right. And that helps really sustain also new ideas emerging, and this all this creativity that has been suppressed for such a long time is now really popping up. Neal, do you find some opposition somewhere from the old systems right now? Do you?
Well, there's two
Is it
things.
coming now?
Yeah, I mean, there's two things. First, it's a mixed picture. So it's like there is opposition, and some incumbents also embrace it. So hotels have been fighting the pure accommodation services, but the car companies have embraced car sharing.
Great.
And even I believe peer-to-peer car sharing too, and they've invested or started their own or partnered, right?
All right.
So they're sort of see the writing on the wall. They've kind of having their Napster moment, because we had peak car around 2008, 2009, and the sales of cars and the issuance of driver's licenses, the miles driven have declined in Europe and the United States since then, right? And so they need to really do something different. Whether they stick to that, that's another question. But they definitely have, I think, even a little bit more than their toes in the water here.
Right.
And then the other thing is that some of these models start out to be a peer-to-peer or have a very strong sharing or community spirit, and then because of how they're organized and how they take investment, they become something else that more resembles what has come before. And so we really, I think one of the newest trends that I'm seeing is that creating platforms that are sharing on the outside and sharing on the inside. It's about sharing, helping people share resources in the world, but then the ownership and decision-making structure is also more democratic. I think that there are very strong forces to make that happen. It's not just a kind of feel-good or altruistic kind of idea that it just makes sense, and you can make a better business and by engaging more people.
I like this. It makes sense.
Yeah.
And
Sharing is practical. It's really practical. I mean, I think we get a kick out of it because of the sociality and just because it's like, oh, I didn't have to buy that. I kind of, I skirted around and didn't have to bear the burden of this thing. I was able to do it in this way, and it's kind of hack. I think sharing is like the ultimate hack.
exactly, it's having, you said once, it's like it's more fun to have access than to something than to be the proprietor of it.
Yeah, that in many ways access trumps ownership, and that the old model is to have one of everything, and
Right,
becomes overwhelming. The owners,
exactly.
the cost,
Yes,
the storage, the maintenance, the insurance, and the cognitive space that things take up,
right.
right? And if you do the access approach, you can get use of things when you need them, only pay for the use, not have the storage, insurance, disposal worries, and you can concentrate your attention on things that really matter to you, your time and attention and your money on things that really matter to you.
And the
That's
world will
in the
be
world, yeah.
grateful for ecological benefits as well, and all that. I mean, it's just a beautiful model. And what I like about it as well, it's not, it doesn't have a shape, really. No,
Mm-hmm.
it's so flexible, and it's not a, I don't know how to say it. It's not like a structure, an institution. It is very feminine. It's moving around and then changes shapes a little bit. And once you said in Paris, they're not, they're as little as rules as possible, right?
Well,
In a way.
so it's interesting you bring that up because Eleanor Ostrom, who won the Nobel Prize for Economics, I think it was in 2010. She was actually the first. I think she was the first woman to win, and she wasn't even really an economist. She was a political scientist, and she studied the commons, and that's exactly an important kind of finding or perspective that she shared with the world, is that the commons is a construct that is very flexible, and each community adapts the idea to their own culture and uses. Right? There are core design principles that cut across, but it's but very flexible at the same time. And so that's what's beautiful about for instance, the Sharing Cities Network, and seeing how people are expressing sharing in their local community. They all do it all in a different way and have a different, kind of slant and
Absolutely.
motivation
Yes.
around it. And that diversity is a big strength. That's what we
Absolutely.
really want to see. And our work, what we do is we give people a kind of ideas for what they might do to mobilize their community to share more. But it's up to them to make it their own, and make it something that's going to work for communicate about it and manifest it in a way that's going to make sense for where they are. That's very different than the corporate world, which
Definitely.
is to create something that can be replicated indefinitely and spread across the world like some sort of tasteless sandwich spread. You know what I mean?
At least it's certainly not as fun. That's for sure. And what a beautiful vision also for our youth. I often mention the youth because in these old structures, they were just being suffocated from where can we put our creativity? We want to come and do something, and
Yeah.
we are being pressed into this mode.
Yeah, I want to show you something too. Hold
Oh,
just for a
okay,
second.
go ahead, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to show our book Share or Die, which came out in 2012, speaks exactly to this. It's written for the young adults who are inherited a kind of broken world,
Right.
and worse than that, they're being exploited often in the United States. The higher education is burdening them with crippling levels of debt.
Of debt, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a form of serfdom that they're experiencing because the debt is so high. The average college graduate graduates with around $25,000 in student loan debt, and they're entering into a job market which is, the worst job market for their age group in a generation.
Exactly.
So they really face a special challenge, and are highly motivated to try something different. But what we wanted to do in this book, even though I think the title is
Share or die. I love it.
Share or Die, is kind of maybe a little over the top, is to offer a different path, right? One with hope and with connection, and a sort of it's a message to this generation. It's like, look, there is no way out of this alone as an individual. You're going to have to work together, and you're going to have to make your lives and remake the world at the same time. And you have to. This requires that you engage everyone and share resources to make it happen. Yeah, so yeah, it is kind of a share or die moment, and this generation is the one that's going to bring us this new system to fruition, or at least get us well on the way.
I mean, Neal and I think we are little dinosaurs.
Look at me, I'm all gray.
Same.
Definitely.
But on the OuiShare Fest, I saw the average age was in Paris that I've experienced was about, I would say, between a middle 20 and the 30s. They all looked very dynamic, motivated, inspired by what they do, and they were all these micro businesses, micro entrepreneurs, and really inspired by what they're doing. So this really was a nice ambience. So I will share the book title as well below the video, so people can, the young people and the old can watch that. Is there?
And by the way, there is a paperback version, that you can get on Amazon, but there's a free version naturally on Shareable. So you just type free version Share or Die, and it'll come up, and you can read all the stories from the book on our website.
Obviously.
You should hope so, right? And all the stories
beautiful.
are creative. All the stories are Creative Commons, so you could
it.
even, anyone can even take them and republish them or remix them or put them on their site, whatever you want to do.
That's just the word being lived. Thank you so much.
Yeah, sure
You
thing.
walk your talk. Is there anything quickly before we close, because I could talk to you for hours and hours, and thank you for this moment, but is there anything you would like to share still before we end that is very precious for you, or is there a message you want to send out to the world as we are doing this now? So,
well, a couple things. Just more housekeeping, and then I'll share a message that's close to my heart.
Yes.
We have our policy guide. So policies for shareable cities. So if you're interested in that, please download it. It's free. There's our sign up for our newsletter. It's a weekly newsletter, can keep you on top of things and engaged in what's happening, and offer chances to become more involved. And follow us on Twitter. We're at Shareable, if that's your thing. And then we're on, of course, Facebook. Just put in Shareable. We're the first thing that comes up. And then the main thing that I would ask people, those are all kind of tools to help, but the main thing that I would ask is, like, if this really resonates with you, bring this new way of thinking and doing into your life, and mobilize your community to get forward, to make it happen where you live. Create a community around the idea, because sharing, you need a community. You need to share with other people, right? So, and we do need to change where we live to make sharing easy and accessible to everyone, right?
Right.
And then just kind of the personal message is, you know, honestly, like you know, I'm doing this, you know, I got into this because it, you know, I tried it for myself. You know, my life on paper was a success. I worked for a big corporation and, you know, traveled a lot around the world. And, you know, I had a good job, you know, so on paper, you know, as a sort of success, but I did not feel successful. I felt disempowered. I felt insecure. I felt like I wasn't a fully realized human being. I felt like I wasn't really alive, that I was half alive. And I just reached a point where I just refused to compromise on my life, that I wanted my life to be an adventure, I wanted to be fully alive as a human being. And when I tried sharing as a way of doing things, when I opened up my life and let other people help me and helped other people, especially with the things that were that I and others were most passionate about, then I started to come into my own and become, in my idea, in my own measure, I started to become a success. I started to become a real human being. And this is what I wish for everyone, to have that, to have a completely full life, that there's no regrets at the end, that people can look back and say, you know, victory, victory.
Wow. Thank you very, very, very much. Why don't we just share that also right now?
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
Well,
Totally.
I love it. I send it out on my platform, and I think this was, for me at least, it was a very inspirational conversation for which I'm very grateful. So we're very much looking forward to see you soon back again in Europe. And what are your traveling plans? Will you come back soon again, or?
Well, I'll be going to Spain in a couple weeks,
Yes.
Barcelona,
Good. There's a lot of bubbling going on there, that's for sure.
Spain has got a lot happening as well as
Yes.
France, right? So we've got a lot to learn from all these
Yes.
different efforts and where they are around the
Definitely.
world.
Yes.
Yeah,
Thank you for your.
and thanks so much for having me. I feel the same. There's just great to talk to you, cool energy, and I feel
Thank you.
warmly welcomed and received in your video cast here
Part of
and
my
home. Exactly.
Be my guest. Thank you
Yeah.
so much from here to there.
Yeah.
And I send you lots of love and all the best. Bon continuation.
Thank you. And the same to you.
Thank you, Neal.
See ya, Petra.
See you. Bye.
Bye.
Cut.
Cut. Awesome. Nice job. Okay.